Hi, Ann Cornick from Paint and Porcelain. I'm here to teach beginners how to get started in China painting and hopefully to encourage those of you that have been painting a while to paint along with me. Today we're going to work on our dogwood. And one of the things I wanted to do was show you how my piece turned out. And as you can see, a lot of the red sort of fired out, but the pink did not. Now I used apricot blush. You may or may not have apricot blush. You can use Lori pink or any pink that you have available. And I'm not unhappy with it. I think it turned out pretty well. You should have gotten the newsletter this week on Tuesday if you subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, all you need to do, and I will put the link out here for you, you go to my webpage, go to the bottom of the webpage, and it will have down there a newsletter, and then you just sign up for it. It'll ask you if you're a robot, and you have to, identify some objects down there, but that's what you need to do in order to get the newsletter. The new colors that we're going to be using, well, all the colors that we're going to be using, the Trenton ivory, that's a real yellow ivory. And at first I didn't think I'd like it, but I'm sold because it really gives you a nice burst of sunlight on your plate. This is chartreuse, shading green, warm brown gray, and rich brown, apricot blush, and pompadour. Those are the colors I used last week. I'm adding cool shadow. If you don't have it, you can use a light blue, blue black. If you don't have it, take your darkest blue, mix it with black, and you can create it. And white. Now, most of you know I like kind of a moody piece. So I am going for something that has a little bit of a darker background, and that's just me. If after the first fire you decide that you're done and you don't want to add any more, then that's absolutely fine. So I'm going to get going, and I'm going to start. This is a large brush. It's a 3/4 inch brush. It's the metal ferrule, which is the metal at the bottom. I'm going to clean it. You always check your brushes, clean them, make sure that, put them in the mineral spirits or whatever you use to clean your brush, and make sure that all the color is out before you get into, especially when you're doing something like this with the yellow or with the ivory. I'm going to go into my Trenton ivory, and I'm going to start and work in this section. Now I'm going to work around the plate from top to right to the bottom, because I'm holding the bottom, that way I can set it down and finish the background down here. If you have one of those turntables, then you're all set, and that works out real well. Right now I'm just doing this area with the ivory as we're talking. China painting and painting in general should not be a secret club where the only way you learn something is if you happen to have a teacher that teaches it. You should be able to ask any question, and you should be able to, people should be willing to share with you what it is they know. Now, I'm using a full load. I'm going straight on. I'm just doing background. I don't want it to look like there's a line here, so I came below it. I don't want it to look like there's a line here, so I came a little below it. It's bigger than the area I want to end up with, because I am going to have to add another color to it, but I'm going to add the color from the outside and pull it into the middle. And I think that that will keep this a nice clean yellow. So I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to dip it into my oil. On this piece, it's important that you paint very dry. It has a slight slope all the way around the edge, as you can see. And if you paint too wet, there's too much oil on your brush, and you don't pat off as much as you can, or at least a lot of it, it's going to run when you fire it. If you fire it flat or fire it standing up, it's going to run. So I would encourage you to try to get as much of the oil off your brush as possible. Now I'm taking my 3/4 inch again, and I'm starting from the top, and I'm painting towards myself down into the yellow. And the reason I'm doing this is to keep the yellow as pure as possible. If I get a little blue on these flowers, I can wipe it off. I can even wipe it off with a brush if I'm really smart. I'm going to put some down in here. See how I'm doing that? So see what I've done so far? I've done the top. I know it looks messy. I'm going to smooth it. Don't worry about that. I'm going to put a little blue here, a little blue here, a little blue up in here. But it's a very dry brush, and that's really the key. You don't want to have the brush be too wet with paint or oil, or it's going to run when you get ready to. Now, one of the reasons I use Cool Shadow, for me, it's one of those paints. Remember we were talking a couple weeks ago about paints that just work for you. No matter what you do with them, they just seem to work. And so I'm painting, and I'm just putting this color on here, but you notice it doesn't give me a hard time. It goes right on pretty smoothly. Okay, gonna clean my brush now. And I'm going to go and use this brush. It's called a number 20. I'm sure it's not a number 20. It looks almost like a 10, but it's real thick. Can you see how thick it is in the middle there? And it's a Joyce Burlew, but a lot of people make a similar brush. And I'm just going to dip it in my oil, clean it off really well, put a little bit of the, I went into the stuff that came off the edge here. And now I'm just smoothing. And I'm just here, so you can see. Here it's kind of choppy. I'm just taking, and I'm using the very edge of my brush, and I'm feathering. Long strokes. You go both directions to smooth it out. You may have to pull a little bit on some of this. It's just the way it is. But you notice I'm trying to get into the yellow, but not pulling into the yellow. I'm pulling away from the yellow. That's how I keep my yellow nice and clean, because I like a clean yellow. And I like the background to look nice, but I don't want to be all mucky. Okay. Now on this side you can probably see how many lines I have in here? This is how I soften it. Look at that. I'm one of those put the color on and then soften it type of people. You don't have to do it that way. If you're a smoother painter than I am, terrific. Then you should be very pleased with yourself. Up here, doing the same thing. And this line here, I don't want it to be so much of a line. I want to pull it. I know I'm over it, right? I want to pull it so that it fades out. See, now you don't notice it as much. Okay, now another trick I know, if you find that you can see the demarcation between the dark and the light, and it's a little too obvious for you, is you can go back in with the same brush you used to smooth. And if you're using a brush that you're using to smooth like this, and you have a line that appears, you can clean your brush, go back into your oil, go back into your Trenton Ivory, and pull the Trenton Ivory out. Let me show you what I mean. Let me actually, there's a little bit of that. It's not a lot of it. Right here, you can almost see a little line right there. If I go back into my Trenton Ivory really lightly and then pull from the center out, it'll help some of that disappear. Oops. There we go. Okay. Alrighty. Going to clean this brush up now. I'm done with it for a little while. I'm going to wipe off my leaves and my flowers. Let me get, I have my number 10 here. This is a nice one. And this is not a metal ferrule. These are metal. This one is actually a quill. It has this plastic at the bottom. Make sure it's clean. Put it in my mineral spirits and then in my oil. And like I said, you have to paint extremely dry with this. I'm just going to pull it off of my flowers. I'm pulling the color off. And I'm only pulling it off on the side that has the light. So if the light's coming this way, I'm pulling it off this way, from left to right, from top to bottom, depending on what leaf you're working on. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and do the leaves up here so that we're out of that. This is going to dry. I'm not going to be able to do much up in there once the color dries. And so I want to work on my leaves while the color around it is still somewhat wet. I took a full load of chartreuse, a side load of shading green, and I'm just going to do the middle of my, I like it to be more chartreuse than anything. So here, so you can see, I'm going to pull that up like that. I'm going to pull this over like this, come to the middle, stop, do a couple little touches with my brush to create that middle, and move on. That'll create at least the middle stem. If you want to do the side ones, you have to be a little more careful, I guess is the word. Like that. Can you see that? It's really hard to see, I think. But that's what I did to create that. Then I turn around and I'm just going to do a little more color in there because I like the chartreuse on this with a touch of shading green. I'm going to do the same thing here while I've got it turned. That's those two. This one hasn't been done yet. I'm going to put a lot of chartreuse on, a touch of shading green. I'm going to do the base of this up to the middle. You need the shading green in order to do the little stem in the middle. And then, you know, you can go back and you don't have to do them all. You don't have to do every one on every side all the way up. You could just do one here, one there. So like I might want to do one here. Oops, one there. That's awfully dark. I'm going to take that off, but just so you could see what I mean. You could do two on one side. You can do a number of different things. And if you don't like them, the beauty of China paint, you can wipe it off. Okay, and then I'm going to come this side here, finish off that leaf. And I think that's it. Okay, now I'm going to work on these two baby leaves I have here. I still have a little green on my brush. I'm going to put a little more chartreuse, and I'm just going to pull them out. I'm working right here, and I'm just pulling those guys out a little. Okay, let's clean off the brush. Good morning. Okay, so that's what I've done so far. Now I'm going to start working on the flower petals. And for that, I'm going to clean off my brush. And I'm going to go into Apricot Blush Full. And then I'm going to use a little bit of Cool Shadow. I tried using a little bit of Pompadour on this. And I have to tell you, I really wasn't crazy about it. So I kind of like more of the apricot. I think it's just prettier. So remember, we're doing the dogwood. And with the dogwood, let me show you here. I always keep a sample in front of me. It's the edges that have the color, not the center. That's, for a lot of people, that's counterintuitive to what you're used to with other flowers. And I'm just going to bring the color up. With this one, I'm mainly using an apricot blush. I'm not using a lot of the other, because it's one of these that's going to be up at the top. You won't see it very much. Okay. And now I'm going to come down here. And for beginners, a lot of times it's better if you stick with one color on your brush. This is the apricot blush. I'm pulling it up to the middle. And you can use any pink you have for this. It doesn't have to be apricot blush. That's just what I had. And I'm pulling it there. Then you're going to want to pull a little down on the sides. If you remember when I showed you that picture, you had a little down on the sides. That's fine. Here I'm going to pull it up to the top. And on this one we have a fold over. And then I'm going to do this leaf down here, or petal, I'm sorry. I say leaf. If I'm working on a petal, just think of it as a petal. Okay. Now you can take a little bit of cool shadow, and if you are very careful, you can add it, and it will create an automatic shadow for you. And that I kind of like. And it keeps it real pinky. Then I'm going to take, this is my number 4 rounded brush, and I'm going to put a little white on it. These are turnbacks. There's a turn back here and a turn back here. I'm just going to accent them with the white. Need a little more white over here. And on the very bottom, I'm just going to like side load this with a little bit of that blush and pull it across the bottom. And the same thing here. And it'll give it a little bit of shadow. And if you need a little up in here, you can do that too. This brush, or any brush that you have that's like this, is always very helpful in sort of finishing off your petals. Okay. Now this guy down here kind of flip-flops back. This one down here. What I'm going to do is do a full load of apricot, a side load of the shadow, cool shadow, and I'm just going to, let me get a little more on there. Here we go. I'm just going to try to put it in shadow by pulling that cool shadow across. It doesn't kill the, I like the great colors. It doesn't kill the pink on that lower one. If anything, it enhances it a little bit, but it does give you a different kind of a shadow color. It's why it's called cool shadow. You can see how that put it right under back there. Okay, now we're going to work on this guy. Remember, keep it dry. Just the tip of your brush in that oil. You don't want it to be too much. And this one is real dark up in here. So looking at the others, I don't know that I need to do more up there. Remember, as you add different levels of color, each time you paint, each fire, you're going to retain some color from a previous fire that might be just enough that you don't really need any more. What I thought I needed more here was just a slight enhancement of the edges of that. See, I enhanced that coming down there. And over here, see how white it is? Okay, oops, lost the side. Oh, here I have it. I'm just going to put a little color there. It just helps. You're finishing off the flower. You're not trying to make it stick out like a sore thumb if you can help it. A little here. And this one, I'm just going to kind of pull it around there. Now this is a separate leaf petal here and there. And then this one is flipped up. So I'm going to turn it this way. Put a little of that cool shadow on the corner and just pull this way. It's going to give you a little definition of this side of the petal. See how it defined that? Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. Just pull away. I'm going to give myself a little cool shadow on the pink underneath this flip. Like that. And then I'm taking this brush, the number 4, and just doing the top of that with white. I'm a whiteaholic. I like white, so I use a lot of white. Okay, now let's talk about the stem. I'm going to be using my liner. I'm going into the rich brown, and I'm just going to sort of sketch. I'm going to sketch that branch in, and I'm going to sketch here. It goes up. I'm going to sketch. You remember we talked last time about how they had kind of a double support? That's what that is. There's a little here, a little more brown. I'm going to come down this way, oh. I do it backhand. I don't know about you, but I think painting my stems backhand seems to work better for me, so that's just me. You do whatever works for you. But I always have painted backhand on my stems. Okay, so we have the top half pretty much done. And now we're going to move on to this side because I'm holding it over here. I don't want to get myself in it. Okay, let me clean off these brushes that I've been using and put them back in the container here. I'm going to move the container over too so I don't have to keep reaching across in front of myself. Okay, got everything done. Now I'm going to shift to a much darker color. So if it turns out this is not something you like, you can keep going with the lighter color. However, the shadows have to get darker as you get to the bottom since the light's coming across. I don't think this color will like kill it. You could use a Copenhagen if the blue-black is too dark for you, but I like blue-black, so taking my big 3/4 inch brush, and I'm just plopping the color on like I always do. I know I'm a very unconventional painter in that respect. Most of the teachers that I know do not paint like this. They don't just slap it on and then smooth it out. I do because it works for me, but that brush keeps separating on me too, which makes me mad. Okay, and I'm going to put a little cool shadow in with it. You probably won't even be able to tell, but I think it'll help go from the cool shadow over to this side. Let's switch to the other brush now. See how messy it is? I just plopped the color on. That's the way I paint. I'm sorry. Those of you that are new to China painting probably go, ah, how could she do that? But that's just me. I prefer to paint that way so I can see what it's going to look like. And then I can smooth it out once I know whether I like it or not. And take some color off by wiping my brush on my towel. I use those, the ones that, what's her name? Cheryl Meggs recommended. And I really like Viva. So if any of you, okay. And I'm wiping off. And then I'm holding it on the very back. Ah! And I'm just lightly touching it. And if it goes over your flowers, if it goes over things, that's fine. It's not going to matter. I keep getting lines. I think that means I have too much oil. Usually it does. But at the same time, I don't want to put too much oil on so it doesn't run for me. There. Get a little blue here. Okay. So that's my darker color. Now, like I said, you may not be a darker color person. If you're not, this is blue black. This is a real dark blue. You could try Copenhagen. You might get a color that you don't mind. But I like the blue black. See that line there? Don't want a line. I'm going to come back over just a tad with the darker color so that the darker color comes up into this area. Okay, that's how we do it. Yep. Still have one more spot where it didn't take. See right here, I have a little streak. I'm not crazy about that, so I'm going to see if I can correct that before we get too far. I don't want this to have a streak right there. That's just not going to work for me, so I'm going to go the opposite way. The streak comes this way. I'm going to see if I can pull it to the side. Whichever side. See? I did it. That's what you do. If it's coming, streaks are coming down, go to the side. There. Oh, don't play too much either. I should do what I'm told, right? Okay. Now I'm going to go back to my number 10. We're doing similar to what we did up here. We're going to take and clean it off. Now here I'm leaving the darker color on. We're getting down into the bottom part. I'm leaving it on, wiping off a little bit. Down here I'm going to wipe off this whole flower, just leaving the dark at the bottom. And here I'm going to wipe it off from this side down. Oops, like that, yeah. And fade it out. It'll give me kind of a pretty bud. Alrighty, up here, isn't that cool? Look at the blue on there. That's just because I put the blue on the background. Isn't it cool? I really like it. And I think a lot of times you should look at what you've done by accident. Sometimes it's even better than what you expect to get normally. So over here, I'm just gonna pull it down a little. Now remember this one, these two flowers are kind of out front, so you can make them a little lighter. It's not gonna matter. I'm pulling that one down. And on this side, I'm leaving that. I love it. I'm just gonna pull it down a little. Just a little. Oops, I'm sorry. Am I in the way? No, I don't think I am. Just a little. Just pull it down a little. Okay, and over here, I'm going to add the blush. And I want to take a little off of here, like that. Pull it to the edge, because the edge is more in the shadow than that is. And then over on this side, I'm going to take full load of apricot, side load of the shadow, and I'm going to go and put my shadow under here. Okay. Now this is a turnover. I'm going to get a little apricot. I'm going to enhance this up in here. I'm going to clean my brush. Add a little oil. I never try to go in straight with the mineral spirits, because if you do, a lot of times it'll bleed and it'll go out into the other areas. So, okay, I'm going to take and do this right here. Pull it up. I put a little white on my brush. That helps, I think. And there's your flip. Now remember, this is only the second coat. I'm going to probably do another coat on this. And I know you think, oh, I don't know, it's kind of dark already. I like it dark. You may not like it dark. But what I'm doing here is I'm trying to get a little more depth in as it goes under the other here. There. Okay. Now, before we get too far, I have 3 leaves down here. They're going to get lost. I'm pulling them out so I don't lose them. I'm going to take and do just like we did up here, chartreuse, full load, side load of shading, and I'm just going to do the leaves. Oops. I want a little more dark in the middle here. Can you see that guy? I'm going to do this guy now. Next one right next to it. They are, when they're this tiny, they are very much like rose leaves. So I know everybody says don't put rose leaves on everything. If you look at these leaves out in your garden, and let me show you. I think I have a picture here of them. Yeah, right there. See how tiny they are? They look just like rose leaves. So that's the reason I'm doing them that way. They're very similar to rose leaves. They have more veins than rose leaves do. That's about the only difference. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this guy, even though I'm still going to do the background. I'm just going to have to be careful going around on the background on him. And just add the edge. Now this guy I want to have, here we go. I want to have more of a vein down the middle of him. And I'm kind of disappointed it's not working when I just tap it. So I'm going to take my liner, and you can do this, and just pull it up. You want to go from the bottom up. Oh, not like that. Hang on. You want to go from the bottom up. Oh, there we go. Because, let me do this again. You want to go from the bottom. Oh, you can't see there. Sorry. You want to go from the bottom up. Bottom up. Bottom up. Okay. And then you can put in other little guys along the sides if you want. Here, let me put one in right here. Okay. So you can do that, and that'll dress it up a little bit. Alrighty. While we've got that liner out, let's do a little bit of this stem over in this area. We kind of lost it. We're just, oh, jeez. I hate when that happens. I was pretty happy with the background, and then you mess it up by doing it. So that's why I do it backwards. I start here. And just go up. And I think this needs a couple little of these guys. So I'm just going to plop some in, like maybe one here. Just suggest it. Doesn't have to be perfect. Yep, guess I don't like that as well as I thought I did. So take it off. And that's the beauty of China paint. Decide what you like, decide what you don't like, deal with what you like. Okay, we're going to do this guy here. We're going to get the apricot blush out. And we're going to do the tops of this guy here. Top there. Pull it down. We're going to pull it down in here. pull a little right here. Now I'm going to take a little cool shadow and I'm going to pull this guy down. Then I'm going to turn it around since that's the shadow side anyway. And I'm going to put a little of this down here like this. Beep, 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 beep. And maybe a little in here, a little cool shadow. Just to give me a little bit of separation there, I guess. Okay, let's finish out this background real quick. The rest of it, pretty much, let me just set this down. The rest of this is pretty much going to be a combination of cool shadow and the black. We're going to add that up in here. You notice I added a little bit of the blue right on the leaves because I do like that. And I'm just going to go through and plop the color around again. This brush is not a very smooth brush. It used to be that it never gave me any problems, but lately, and then here, oh, I better leave it this direction. I'm going to do it here. Now you notice I'm getting close here, and I don't want to get too close. So I'm going to have to smooth that. So let's get the smoothing brush out. It still had paint on it from the last time, so I'm just using it to smooth now. Can you see how I'm smoothing that? You want to go by the back handle of it, way back here, and just smooth it. See up here, it's kind of clumpy. I'm just smoothing it. Go right over this stem. Go right over this stem. I haven't done it yet. Oh, I shouldn't have played over here. I knew I shouldn't have, but I couldn't resist. There we go. Okay, so that's the kind of look I'm going for. I think I want a little more of the darker color up in here. And you've got to do that before you do your stems, because once you do your stems, you're going to keep getting into it. So if you want a darker color up in there or a little darker color back in here, you have to add it now. You can't go back and add it later. Well, you can, but it's going to mess something up. You know it is. Because your background's going to set up. You're painting very dry. You're wiping off a lot of your oil this time. Okay. So we're going to take the brown. And again, I do this backhand. And we're just going to do a little bit of the stem here. And we're going to do a little bit of the stem out here. And they have a double support to their flowers, which is kind of weird, but that's what they have. So that's why I did it that way. And over here, I don't like that, so I'm going to... Okay, now I'm debating, do I put a stem over here? I don't know. I've tried it that way, and I don't know that I like it. So right now, this is what I have. And this is only the second fire. We are going to need a third fire for this. So, and now I'm going to take my apricot blush and I'm going up to this guy. Now this guy doesn't have to be real particular. In fact, I purposely put some of the blue on him so that he would just sort of disappear. Because to me, he's out in left field. He's not something we're really going to be watching. But I'm just adding a little bit of color to him, just to give him a little sense of, I guess, import. I'm going to pull a little color. No. This is apricot. I'm going to just go up here, and I'm just going to pull a little color down. If I can get my color to come down. There we go. And there we go. I'm not going to do too much more. Okay. The final thing you can do, if you're up to it, I guess, is you're going to sign this, of course, and you're going to use the liner, and you can put in white or yellow, a few more little dots in here just to make sure that the center is nice. You're also going to take a little blue black, and you're just going to go, kind of like we do with the wild roses, you're just going to go and maybe show a little separation. See here? I'm going to do it right here. Watch. Just a little bit. Just a wisp. If it gets out of hand, you know what to do. You just wipe it off. But here, see, I'm going to make it a little darker there. Maybe a little here. I think the rest is okay, but I just wanted to separate those guys a little bit. Maybe in there. And then I go and make sure I have the yellow on here. So that's what we've ended up with. I don't know. I kind of like it. You're going to have to enhance the middles of these. And let me just show you what they look like again so you can remember. This is how they look in the middle. Oops, right there. See? You can use a white, but that's actually a yellow. To do that, and you can even go back and use more of your darker colors. Okay, so this is what we ended up with. There you go. Can you see that? I'm hoping it fires just like that. Looking at it now, I'm thinking I'm pretty happy with that. I am going to add a lot more darker colors the next time. And then we're going to go through and just add detail. I think mainly detail to it, and then it'll be done. It does have a silver rim. I don't know if you can tell in that, but it does have a silver rim. So next time we're going to do the final on this. So pick up your brushes, keep painting, and I will see you next time. I hope you enjoyed the program, and I hope you'll take a minute to subscribe so that other people can learn more about China painting and we can get the word out to more people. You also can look at the links below. My Paintnporcelain.com website has a lot of freebies and printables for new and experienced painters, as well as studies, supplies, and even some of my hand-painted china. So thank you again, and I'll see you next time.